Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
8 million more Americans have slipped into poverty since May this year, and it's all thanks to how the governors of the United States of America has handled the coronavirus pandemic. No, it is not because of COVID alone. Viruses come and go. That's life. COVID is here to stay, and it doesn't mean we can keep blaming our financial problems and the way that our governors have acted on this single virus. It's time to get real, people. It's time to address what so many of us are scared to death of talking about, and that is the financial ruin of this country and the beyond repairable damage that has been occurred from what coronavirus has delivered. It is beyond repairable, people, and I'm scared to death to think about what's going to happen over the next few months. And the sad part is, poverty is not just reserved for the stereotypical demographics that we relate poverty to. It's now happening in our own backyard. It's happening to our neighbors, and it's sad and it's criminal, and we need to do something about it now before it's too late. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam, and we'll listen to what our fearless leader, Governor Cuomo, has to say about how bad it is, yet he does nothing to help us get through it.
Look, we have a public safety crisis on top of the COVID crisis, on top of the housing crisis, on top of the employment crisis. And am I shocked that crime went up when unemployment went up and desperation went up? And it's harder to find a job and people aren't getting any income? No.
Am I shocked that crime went up? Am I shocked that unemployment went up? Depression is up. Illnesses are up. Everything is up across the board here, yet we don't seem to want to do anything about it. We keep closing businesses. We're arresting people now for closing businesses. It's getting so out of control here. 10% of New Yorkers, 10% as of right now, are unemployed. 10% of the entire state of New York is unemployed. 1 out of 10 people. Walk through your neighborhood. Take a walk through your neighborhood. Every 10 houses that you see are unemployed. 9% in California. Democratic run, both states. 7% nationwide. Now, here's the scariest part of it all. At the height of the pandemic, back in May, nearly 20% of the United States of America was unemployed. 20%. Think about how many tens of millions of people are unemployed, not bringing in an income at the same time. We cannot afford another lockdown. We barely even got through the first lockdown. Yet, Democratic governors seem to think that another lockdown is the way forward. They seem to think that this is going to help America get back on track. The only thing it's going to help us do is put us into the worst financial crisis this country's ever seen. Now, if we look back at the 2008 financial crisis, the property crash, if you guys remember that, in 2008, that crash was due to property. We bounced back quickly because there was nothing fundamentally wrong with the country. There was nothing fundamentally wrong with the stock market or businesses. Business continued to grow. That's the key here. Businesses. If businesses aren't let to grow, then we have a huge problem. If you shut businesses, you cut off the income for this country. You cut it off for earners, you cut it off for the government because they're not receiving tax. So you shut down businesses, you shut down the country. So back in 2008, when we had the property crash, we bounced back fairly quickly because there was nothing fundamentally wrong on a grand scale with America. Back in 2001, when we experienced the tech bubble, there was nothing fundamentally wrong. The only thing that happened was the tech industry was overinflated. It was due for a market correction, but it bounced back. The reason why I feel that this next recession is going to be so catastrophic, it's going to be the blow to America's death. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be the final knockout to this country, and it's going to take decades to repair because of the mistakes that these governors made throughout the coronavirus pandemic. It is going to be such a devastating blow that I don't know how people are going to bounce back when they have no jobs to bounce back with. Small businesses, for those of you who don't know, we keep locking down these small businesses. Small businesses make up 50% of America's employee workforce. Small businesses, not Walmart, not Target, not Kmart, not the big box stores, not the McDonald's of the world, but small businesses. They make up 50%. How many of you watching this right now work for a small business? How many of you right now are scared to death that if you get furloughed, you might not come out of it next time? Cases are spiking. All I keep hearing is that we're going into a lockdown again. Biden says we're not going to go into a lockdown. Now he's saying we might go into a lockdown. If we go into a national lockdown, this country is not only going to experience financial ruin, but look at crime. Crime is up 50 to 90% across the country. Why is that? It's because people cannot afford to put food on their table. They can't afford to pay their bills. When coronavirus first broke, when we first started locking down, I told my wife, I said, listen, if we don't get over this, if this lockdown lasts even more than 2 weeks, let alone 8 months, 2 weeks, we're going to see crime go up. It's going to start in areas where massive amounts of crime already exist, but then it's going to trickle down into the suburbs. It's going to trickle down into neighborhoods that you never thought crime would exist. Why? Because people are becoming desperate. As soon as they aren't able to feed their families, they're going to start coming to our homes. It's going to be that bad. Am I over exaggerating? I hope so. But that's how it starts. This is how it starts right now. It starts with somebody breaking into your garage because they're trying to raid your garage freezer until the point where that's no longer available. Then people are just going to straight up start coming into your homes and robbing you for what you have. Why do you think gun sales are at an all-time high in America? Gun sales are through the roof. It is a booming industry. More permits off the record charts. More permits are being applied for on a daily basis. They can't even keep up. The likes of Ruger can't even keep up manufacturing guns. All I see online from a lot of my Facebook friends is the guns that they've bought, the stockpile of weapons that they have, because America is either nervous that they're about to lose their constitutional Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms, and they are nervous that before we know it, our homes are going to start becoming invaded from people who are desperate to take what we have because they have no other option. They've been backed into a corner. It's very scary what's going on. And if we take a look at what the government's doing, what they're allowing, monopolies in the United States are illegal. They are illegal. We're not supposed to allow monopolies to form. But for some reason during coronavirus, it's okay. Why are we indirectly fueling the growth of the largest companies in the world? Look at Amazon, look at Walmart. We let Walmart stay open. We let McDonald's stay open. This is the very definition of fueling a monopoly. We're allowing these companies to grow stronger, and from that, we're shutting down small businesses even further. It's catastrophic what's happening. I've never been more scared for this country than I am right now. This recession, when it does all collapse, and it will soon, we can end COVID tomorrow. It's still going to collapse. Putting on my economic hat here, it's a very simple matter of supply and demand. If there's no demand, there's no supply. If there's no supply, there's no employees. And the trickle-down effect will keep going into our households to the point where we're just not going to have any available work to us. Right now, we still have there's a shred of work out there that, God forbid, if you have to work at Burger King, you can. At least that's still available to us. Soon it's not going to be. When we go back to 20% unemployment and beyond, 30%, 40%, when we hit these sort of numbers, you won't even be able to get a snowplow job in America. It's going to be that bad. And it's going to happen. And I think we are beyond the point of repair. 60% more Americans over the Thanksgiving holiday admitted they needed to line up at a food bank. 60% more this Thanksgiving than previous years. When I first started begging Americans to fight back, to fight these lockdowns back in April, I was criticized. I was called a monster. I was considered selfish. People said, how dare you put money ahead of people dying? And I said, listen, it's not the fact that I don't care about people dying. Of course I care about people dying. But we have to be realistic here. Who's going to pay my mortgage? Because my mortgage provider doesn't care about the pandemic. Who's going to pay my car loans? Who's going to pay my bills? The economy does not care about coronavirus. What's going to happen when these millions of Americans have to start paying their rent again? Yes, we extended eviction. We suspended eviction notices through January again. But what is this doing to these poor landlords who have to continue to pay their mortgage? A lot of them aren't. And although they may be getting some sort of relief, that relief is going to come to an end. See, we haven't even begun to suffer the full extent of what's about to happen to this country because this pandemic went on way too long. 8 months. We live paycheck to paycheck. Americans are constantly walking on eggshells. The average American has negative $100 savings in their bank account. We can't afford to be out of work for 1 week, let alone 8 months. And here we are, cases spiking, Democratic-run states locking down again. Florida, again, has said, I'm not doing it. I'm not locking down. We can't afford it. People are furious with him. But what's worse? Catching a virus that you have a chance of survival by 99.8%? Or pretty much 100% chance of going bankrupt? What's worse? At what point do we say, listen, we have to accept the fact here that people are going to die. It's very unfortunate. It's very sad, but it cannot be at the sacrifice of breaking America. Because once you break America, there is no coming back from it. The damage is irreversible by this point. So we need to get real, and we need to start thinking and understanding why there are so many protests, why people are fighting back, why small businesses have had enough. We need to start appreciating the fact that they are fighting back and stop getting mad at these people, because these people who are protesting, they may be your best friend. Whether they admit it or not, they might be struggling right now to pay their bills. Your neighbor may be struggling to pay for food for their table. It may be so bad in that household. And when you lash out at these people, when you accuse them of being selfish, it puts them even more in more of a state of depression. Because you have no idea, I have no idea, we all have no idea what the other half is going through. And if we're not careful, we may become the other half. Let's go back to the keyboard warrior cam and see what Americans have to say about how bad it is here in the United States based on what we just saw from Cuomo. What Cuomo, Newsom, Garcetti, Lightfoot, and the other idiots have done should be considered criminal and treated accordingly. Incompetence, ignorance, and egotistical aren't excuses. They truly hate the people, their states, of their states and cities. It is criminal. Because while these governors are still collecting a paycheck, they're telling you you can't earn. How is that possible? At least Donald Trump gave up his $400,000 salary. He knew that it wasn't right. These politicians are collecting their salaries. Cuomo gave himself a raise last year, and the only reason he's not going to give himself a raise this year is because he got caught. There was such a backlash of hatred and complaints towards Cuomo that he said, fine, I won't take it. $76,000 salary he was going to give himself next year. And it took a backlash on social media for him to say, okay, fine, I won't take it. Well, it's too little too late, Cuomo. You were going to take it. You're happy to shut down these businesses, which is absurd. This orange map crap is absurd. Let's look at what just happened in Staten Island. I posted it last night, a video, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's beautiful. The protests in Staten Island. Over 400 people showed up last night to say this is wrong. And why is it wrong? It's wrong because only half of Staten Island was closed. Half is considered to be in an orange zone. The other half, 2 blocks down the road, completely open. Half of Staten Island is allowed to earn, while half of the island is going to go broke. We're not talking 2 separate countries here divided by a massive ocean. Okay, fair enough. You're isolated. We're talking about a little island the size of my backyard here, that half of it has to shut down and the other half is allowed to earn, all because we have this stupid color coding map stuff. There's a flare up. You're in an orange zone. Therefore, you're shut down. It's absolutely criminal. Let's see what other people have to say here. My husband and I have moved a few times when we were younger. We used to look at state taxes, DMV fees, etc. to decide where to move. It's unfortunate now that if we have to move, I now have to look at the politicians and the states that they represent. Isn't that sad that you now have to decide where to live in the United States based on your governor? These governors are supposed to be helping us. They're supposed to be protecting us. They're supposed to be paving the way forward, not bankrupting us. And now people are moving to states like North Carolina. It's so bad, people, that these Republican states are saying, will you stop moving here? Okay, stop bringing your, at least for the Democratic side, stop bringing your liberal ideology into these states. Why do you think we've seen so many states flip from red to blue over this past election? Because liberals, the very liberals who are okay with Cuomo, are secretly leaving. They're not voicing their frustrations. They're not voicing their concerns. They are secretly leaving and now infecting Republican-run states. So what you're going to start to see here is a lot more states flipped blue. Or you're going to see it the other way around. Liberals are going to stay in their Democratic-run states thinking, you know what? The conservatives will leave. Screw them. We don't want them here anyway. Well, guess what's going to happen when you have no more conservatives to start fighting for your freedoms, to fight for lower taxes, to fight against the draconian lockdown measures? Guess what's going to happen in a state like New York when half of the conservatives say, screw this, I'm done? Well, your taxes are going to go mile high. Unemployment's going to go through the roof because there aren't enough businesses to support them. And it's going to become an absolute mess. It's going to become catastrophic for Democrat-run states. So be careful what you wish for, Dems, because when conservatives leave and when they've had enough, they aren't going to be fighting for you anymore. It's a very, very dangerous path to go down. Need to get that evil Cuomo, says D, out of leadership, and his brother as well, who is obnoxious to high hell. He destroyed New York by all he has done, killing the elderly, then blaming it on the president. Shut New York down completely so people had no business and let them burn down neighborhoods and businesses. Then he has the nerve to say he has done a good job in destroying New York. Get him out. These people need to live and prosper. Absolutely right. He's received awards. He's written books. New York State has the highest COVID death rate, 0.17% of all deaths. And I don't want to hear it's because it's the most highly densely populated state in the country. Listen, New York State is a lot more than just Manhattan. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of densely populated cities in Florida as well. There's a lot of densely populated cities in Texas who have half the death rate and no lockdown measures whatsoever. So although somewhat of a fair argument, it's far from the only argument here. That's because your city is run by Democrats. Doom and gloom. Repent of your wicked ways, says Karen. God knows your heart and motives. Stop blaming others for your bad choices. Do not complain to do the right thing. Open up businesses with restrictions of masks and fund the police. Absolutely right. Why is defund the police even a topic right now? Why is it even a conversation? And I'm so glad that this new freedom force that the Republicans have launched, who are out to come after AOC and the squad, they've had enough. They have started to say, we aren't defunding any police. If anything, we're going to fund the police more. Look what's happened since the whole defund the police moment. Crime is up 50 to 90% across this country. The writing's on the wall. It doesn't work. Our law enforcement need to be rewarded, applauded, given a pat on the back 1,000,000 times a day. Not defunded. This is totally backwards right now. Did we not just see what happened in Portland, in Chicago, in Minnesota? Did we not just see what happened during these riots? Did you not get a glimpse into the future of what happens when you defund the police? And I don't want to hear it's because of the Black Lives Movement. There's a bunch of BS, the Black Lives Movement. People came out because they were frustrated. They were stressed out. It gave those who weren't working an excuse to hit the streets and have a moment of bravery while they decided to loot the hell out of these big box stores. That was not a movement. That was just a chance to rob these stores because they weren't earning an income. And we're going to see so much more of it. Since when is protesting about looting? What does looting have to do with anything here? It's because they needed that excuse. They needed that movement of encouragement to get out there and say, hey, great, this is my chance to go start stealing because I am so broke right now. I see this as my only option. Do you blame them? I don't blame them. Their governors have broke them. They've got no money. They've got no food on their table. They saw a window of opportunity and they took it. All while they cried and screamed to defund the police. Well, there you go. We've defunded it. Good luck calling 911 in the middle of the night when you have no one to answer that call and your house is being raided. Let's go back and take a look at the other half of this video here. I want to show you guys We got a new Republican candidate for governor of New York State. Breath of fresh air. Are Cuomo's days limited? You know, a few months ago, I would have believed you when you said there's no way New York City's going to oust Governor Cuomo. Well, after what I saw last night, the riots in Staten Island, I'm not so sure anymore. They're not happy with this guy. And we finally have somebody who's going to give Cuomo a run for his money. Let's take a look.
And that there was Andrew Cuomo earlier today talking about the skyrocketing crime rates in New York, China virus cases once again spiraling out of control, and growing housing and unemployment crises in that state. It's clear that it is time for new leadership in the Empire State, and my next guest believes he's the right man for the job. Derek Gibson, Republican gubernatorial candidate for governor of the great state of New York, and he joins us now from Georgia, where, as I understand it, you're stumping for Kelly Loeffler. Welcome, sir.
Hi, glad to be here, Chris.
Mr. Gibson, Governor Cuomo tweeted this out over the weekend. Says, happy hashtag small business Saturday. Small business drives New York's economy and makes our communities and neighborhoods unique. Support your locally owned small businesses. You know, Mr. Gibson, those words mean so much from a guy who shut down New York's businesses and then turned a blind eye as his cronies in BLM and Antifa torched and looted those businesses. What do you say?
Right, and how can you support the small business when they are closed, when the lockdown orders are mandatory in different areas of the city? So you can't support the small business. You can't have it both ways. If we open our economy up, then we can support our small business. This governor is playing games with politics, and we have got to move forward from the opening economy back up and keep it going. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, Antifa was destroying the city, and he told police, him and the mayor of de Blasio, to stand down. And now that you see the business are opening up so they can feed their families, he's sending the Gestapo to arrest them.
Yeah, it's.
He told the mayor to stand down. You were just listening to Mr. Gibson, Republican governor candidate, who's going to give Andrew Cuomo a run for his money in 2022. It cannot come soon enough. I would love to see a Republican governor here in New York State. Somebody needs to come in here and clean this mess up. And he's right. How do you tweet support small business? This is local small business day. I mean, what a crock of horse dung. On one hand, you're shutting them down, and then the other hand, you're telling us to go support them. This is no different than the tweet that Kamala Harris tweeted a few days ago. In my last live, I focused on this one. Kamala Harris, back in, I think it was May, during the Minnesota riots, was literally raising money to bail out protesters, who we all know were rioters. She was raising money for a fund that was going to bail out these rioters in Minnesota. Okay? So she's bailing out rioters who have looted, burned, stealed from the city. And now she's crying for support to help rebuild these businesses. What is wrong with the democratic logic here? Why is this acceptable? I don't hear this on the Republican side. And yes, I'm biased. I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm a little biased, but I don't hear this level of logic on the right. For some reason, it seems to fly only on the left. It almost seems normal to Democrats, to liberals. And I'm sitting here scratching my head thinking, do you guys listen to yourselves? Do you hear what's coming out of these governors and politicians' mouths? Riots, protests, they're all happening because we need a release. People need a release. And as the country's unemployment rate skyrockets again, and as we go into the next Great Recession, one that we're not going to come out of for a very long time, because now, fundamentally, the country is truly broken. The stock market might be at all-time highs, but guess why this means absolutely nothing? The only reason the stock market is at all-time highs is because businesses since the 2008 crash, and they have not recovered since, at least they have not gained confidence the way they had pre-2008. 2008 was a big wake-up call for many businesses. They said, you know what, the hell with this, I'm not hiring people anymore. I cannot handle the volatility in the economy. So they didn't hire, they didn't spend. All they've done is rack profits. That's all they've done. They've racked profits. It's pushed the stock market to new highs. The only reason that we have seen record-breaking after record-breaking stock market year is because these businesses aren't hiring. So who's really profiting from the stock market? Not the American people. Yes, the shareholders. If you've invested in these stocks, you're doing quite well. The only people profiting are the shareholders and the business owner themselves. They're not fueling the economy with employment. If anything, they're making it worse. And rightly so. They have zero faith in the economy right now. They have zero faith in our government. Why would they want to hire employees? Why would they want to worry about them when they're worrying about themselves to begin with? So when we have the next stock market crash, when we have the next global recession, the reason that this is going to be so much worse is because fundamentally the country is now broken. There are no more jobs. There is no demand. Any economics major knows that countries run on supply and demand. And the world today is so global that we're going to now see this trickle into Europe. China's going to be affected. No country is going to be spared from the next global recession. You pull up any stock market chart, you're going to see that they are so intertwined with each other. When all the countries move up, they move together, and when they crash together. There is no such thing as true diversification anymore. Pull up any stock market chart, you're going to see it. And for those of you, I want to talk about this for a second. For those of you who are in retirement, for those of you who aren't worried about the next crash because you're receiving retirement funds, here's the problem with that. The last market crash in 2008, those heading into retirement lost nearly 50% of their funds. Hence the reason they had to go back into work, and they're still working today. Your retirement fund is only as solid as the financial stability of this country. Social Security benefits are only as solid as the financial stability of the United States economy. If the United States goes broke and we run out of Social Security money because we keep printing money, because we keep offering these stimulus packages into the trillions of dollars, by the way, there is no more Social Security fund. If companies go broke that your pension is relying on, your pension tanks. So everybody needs to be concerned here. There's a trickle-down effect, one like we've never seen before. The stimulus package of $1,200 is a joke. $1,200 was sent to the American people. What was that going to do? Put gas in your car? It's a joke that we are sitting here now desperate for more socialist crack. That's exactly what's happening right now. And if you haven't noticed, the writing's on the wall here. The next stimulus package, they're talking about giving every American $300 a week. What is $300 a week going to do to this economy? Because the people who really, really need this money are going to go spend that in about 5 seconds, and they're going to need more. This is where you start to see America head into socialism. Is it by design? I don't know. I'd like to think not. But I can't help but to think that our democracy, our very capitalistic country right now, is slowly transitioning into socialism. You've got the left screaming free medicine. You've got Biden talking about waiving everybody's college tuition bill. This doesn't sound like capitalism. People don't understand that free money doesn't come without great sacrifice. We will pay extortionate amount of higher tax rates. Our taxes will go up. Look at the UK and Europe. Europe, Italy, highest tax rate in the world, 60-70%. Spain tax rates. That's what you get for living in a socialist country. So you will pay that back. There is no such thing as a free lunch. And this is why Republicans and conservatives and entrepreneurs and the hard-working middle class are furious with the direction this country is headed. They don't want a free handout. They want to get back to work so unemployment can come down, so we don't need your government money, so we can make it ourselves. We need low tax rates to fuel the growth of this economy. If I have to pay more as an entrepreneur on tax, I can't grow my business, which means I can't hire employees. It is all connected, and it's all going to come crashing down because we didn't solve this country's pandemic issue, or we over exaggerated the issue for whatever reason. It's all about to come to a crashing halt. Let's head back over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what other Americans have to say about how badly this country is doing financially right now. Good luck to this guy talking about Mr. Gibson, who just voiced his concern. Good luck to this guy. He will need to be more aggressive. These people are nasty and evil. We will have to be the same. Otherwise, he is going nowhere. We are up against a fight right now in Democratic-run states. We're up against a big challenge here. These people are nasty. It's shocking at how cruel and irresponsible and reckless they become. Cindy says Cuomo is a thug, acts like he's a mafia leader. He needs to go. Kick him to the curb and take your city back. This is exactly what California needs to do to Newsom as well. And I think these governors know this. I think they know how bad it's getting. Look at what Mayor de Blasio just did. Before Thanksgiving, he's talking about orange zone districts, school districts completely shutting down. That's it. We're going full remote. Only 3 days later, he backpedals on that and says, okay, I want us all going back to school in person. I think it's something like December 7th. So he wants everybody back in school. Why? Where's the... Why have you all of a sudden backpedaled? Is it because you woke up and had an epiphany and realized that this is not good for anybody? That you're hurting our children? You're hurting the parents who now have to stay home, who can't work because teachers are still getting paid and we're paying our taxpayer dollars. So we have to teach our kids. Is it because you woke up and realized how stupid the entire concept is? Or is it because you were worried about a lawsuit? Because governors are getting sued because we've had enough. Catholic Diocese of Rochester wins their Supreme Court justice lawsuit. They won it. Rightfully so. Thank God to Amy Coney Barrett. So these governors are now seeing that maybe they need to rethink their decisions, because not only is their political career on the line, but personally, they may be liable for the thousands of deaths that have occurred because they wrongfully locked down these states because of the negligence that they've committed. But it may be a little too late. It doesn't solve the fact that these businesses aren't going to be able to survive. I have never seen more businesses shut down in the last month than I have in the last 10 years. More and more businesses have given up. We're closing our doors. We're done. We don't have any more fight left in us. And why should they fight? The rules are changing every single day. You've got people who worked their whole life who are in their 60s and 70s. They needed just 5 more years to top their pensions off. And we took that away from them. Everybody who was against the lockdown, you took it. Everybody who was in favor of the lockdown, you took away the livelihoods of these people who needed just 5 more seconds to top their pensions funds off. They deserved it. They worked so hard. But for some reason, I don't feel that most people understand this or can relate to it, because the average 9-to-5 worker goes to work, they collect their paycheck. If they don't go to work, they collect their unemployment check. They've relied on free handouts their entire life. They can't relate to these entrepreneurs and what they've been through. They just can't relate. So it's the easiest thing for them to do is say, hey, you're selfish. It's all about money. Well, listen, if it's all about money, if you don't want me to be selfish and you rather put if you want me to put your health instead of my mortgage, then send me the check so I can pay my mortgage. How's that for fair? We need to stop testing. We need to stop scaring each other. We need to open these businesses. We need to get back to work before it is too late, before unemployment skyrockets back up to 20%, before 40, 50, 60 millions of Americans are out of work again. Because this time, we are not going to bounce back. It's very sad. Am I selfish for wanting to pay my bills? No, I don't think so. I think I'm looking out for my family. I think that's what we all need to do right now. And I think that anybody who screams and yells at these business owners who are pointing the finger, needs to think about how really selfish they are. Because while you're home surviving a virus, these people are going broke. While you're home collecting your unemployment check or your COVID bonus pay or your stimulus package or your furlough, you have a job to go back to. A lot of these people do not. And it's about to get a lot worse. Thank you guys so much for joining the show today. I appreciate you tuning in. If you want to be a guest on the show, email guests@youmadeitpolitical.com. I'd love to have you on. We're starting to take guests now, please. So please join the show. I'd love to hear what you all have to say, because after all, your voice matters. That's why we started this show. The American people, freedom of speech must prevail. The show is all about you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on Saturday morning during Super Saturday. That's it for today. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark.